Good evening. Ron Mata, your not-so-affable host of Activate Worcester. This is our fourth show, and we've had terrific guests for each one of our shows, and I believe that the guest that we're going to present to you this evening will be provocative, interesting, and just someone who transcends the city itself. And rather than my waxing on, our co-host, Sandy Williamson, how are you tonight?
Pretty good.
Good.
Great to be here. And as well as Ron said, we have a guest tonight, Rob Eno from Red Mass Group. Certainly not local to Worcester as our earlier guests have been, but well known across the state, and really a type of person who activates the whole state when you look at the Red Mass Group website. So without going into a lot of detail, welcome, Rob. And,
thank you for having me. I can tell you a little bit about what Red Mass Group is and how we got started. Red Mass Group is it's a website, it's a blog, you might call it, but it's an information or a water cooler for the conservative movement in Massachusetts. We do a little bit of breaking news. We do some of our own investigative journalism. We also talk about other things that are in the news, and it's also a place where people can go and have conversations about what's happening politically that affects their lives. The website was started in 2007 after Kerry Healy lost the election to Deval Patrick. A few of us saw what was happening on the Democratic side as far as their online infrastructure, and thought that we needed something on our side that went with it. And one of my friends started the website. I've since taken it over from him. We've been around for 5 years, and in the 5 years since we've been active, we've gone from having no sitting United States members of Congress to having a United States Senator that's a Republican. We've doubled our numbers in the State House. I'd like to think that we're somewhat of a small part to do with that, getting people activated, getting people excited about politics. We were one of the first places in the nation that said that Scott Brown had a path to victory, that was often cited by the national people. I also have a personal network of people nationally that can help elevate stories to get it in front of a national eye. And that's some of the things that we did during the Scott Brown special election. And it's also something that I can do for people that are doing citizen journalism or doing their own website for their local level. If you're running a website that talks about the city of Worcester politics or in one of the surrounding towns, and you've got stories that you want to get the people in the state level to look at, just send me an email, and you can find my information at ACTIVATEworcester4.com, I'm sure, and just send me an email, and I can help promote it if it's something that we're interested in. So those are some of the sorts of things that we do, and so that's kind of what the website is.
Rob, I'm sorry. Tell me a little bit about your demographic. Do you know what your demographic is?
The
male,
demographic
female,
I don't know the male female, but I do know that it's not just conservatives. It's people across the state. If I look at my search engine, not my search engine, but my website statistics, there's a heck of a lot of people in the State House that look at the website to see what us crazy conservatives are talking about. So it runs the gamut. And, in a non-election year, it's a little bit lower. In an election year, it comes up. It has a lot to do with what people share on Facebook and if they send emails with what the stories are. But what we're really trying to do is we're really trying to be a consistent conservative voice. And, you talk about activate, but to hold people accountable, too. So we elected 33, or we doubled our seats from the conservative movement. And if you consider the conservative movement the Republican Party, there are a handful of Democrats that are very conservative. But we doubled our seats. And some of the votes that our Republican freshmen have taken have not been what we would consider conservative votes. One of those things that happened was a vote for this health care price control legislation that actually finally passed the legislature on the last day of session, coming out of conference committee. But the first time it passed, we have 33 Republican members, and only 7 of them voted against price controls and health care cost controls. It's Romney Care, Obama, Deval Patrick Care 2.0. It's going to set rates for hospitals. And to me, that's not a conservative principle. That's not something that people that call themselves conservatives shouldn't be voting to put in new government bureaucracy, those sorts of things. So what I did on the website, and some people might say that it was a little over the top and bullying, but I don't think so. What I did on the website was I took the 7 that voted against it, voted the way that you would think a Republican or a conservative would vote, and put their names up on the website and told people to donate to them and do those sorts of things. I took the 26 that voted for it and voted against conservative principles, put their names up and told people to call them. Well, those people got phone calls. It wasn't 7 of 33, it was 19 of 33 Republican representatives that voted against the bill the second time it came around. So part of, activating is not just activating to get people elected, it's holding the people that you do elect that say that they hold the principles that they say they believe accountable. They say sunlight is the best disinfectant. And just people haven't had that. I'm a guy that lives in Shrewsbury, rent a room off of a friend, don't have a lot of money, make a decent living, but wouldn't consider myself wealthy, but has an effect on the dialogue in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts because of the website and because there's people that listen to what I have to say, and I let people say what they have to say. So that's part of, there's a lot of activating, which is go on, knock on doors, do those sorts of things, but there's also being active in the online space, in the information space, and it's kind of being an information activist.
Well, it certainly adds to the transparency because anyone that wanted to could have known those statistics that you just pointed out, but it takes time and a little bit of work.
Right.
You got to go find it and
put it up.
In a cogent format.
Right.
In a cogent format. One of the things, and we did a training for the Greater Boston Tea Party and Greater Worcester Tea Party and Activate Worcester. There were a lot of people there a few weeks ago on how to be a citizen journalist. And one of the things that people don't, I think, realize is every piece of information that a government agency creates in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, whether it's at the city, state, UMass level at the medical center, although you get into some HIPAA and some privacy things, but it's certainly on the administrative side, are public records. They're not Deval Patrick's records. They're not Joe O'Brien's records. They're not Tim Murray's records. They're public records, and they belong to the public. And anybody can get them. There was a case where Deval Patrick, this gentleman, Stan McGee, Carl Stanley McGee, worked for the Patrick administration, went to Florida, and allegedly raped a 15-year-old boy in a steam room. They didn't prosecute him because they didn't have enough evidence to get what they thought was a conviction. They never said he didn't do it, that they didn't have enough evidence to get as a conviction. The Florida law enforcement, still to this day, because I've talked to them, says that he should have been prosecuted. He settled with the boy's family for a significant sum of money. The Patrick administration never did a review. Anything more than just talking to him and seeing a news report that he didn't get charged. So then the Gaming Commission wants him to be the interim executive director of the Gaming Commission. What? And they didn't think it would be a big deal. So long story short, it gets all everything hits the fan. He ends up having to resign from that, and he resigns from the Patrick administration. So I did a Freedom of Information Act request or a public records request to see what the Gaming Commission talked to people outside the agency about. Unbelievable. They thought it wouldn't be a problem. The governor's office assured them that it wouldn't be a problem. Oh, those have been vetted. They never vetted them. They never checked it out. Long and the short of it, because of the stories that I was able to generate because of those public records requests, the Boston Globe picked up on my reporting. The Cape Cod Times picked up on my reporting. And the boy's lawyer determined that Stan McGee talked about the settlement, so she was able to tell the world that, yeah, he settled for between $250,000 and $500,000. So it wasn't a small settlement. It wasn't those things. But those sorts of things you can find out. And now we can ask questions to the governor. Why did you rehire this guy? Was he near children? All of those sorts of things. I mean, he allegedly did it, so he's got a presumption of innocence. But, so did OJ. And, OJ ended up losing his civil case. So, there's those sorts of things. So that's public records request, but it's also public records request on mundane things, cell phone records, if they're kept, and they don't just do them online, because for some reason, if you hit the print button, that's generating a record, which I don't think is right, because we didn't get Tim's cell phone records from when he careened into the highway in a straight line, which was have you ever seen those pictures? Those pictures, the pictures of his crash came as a result of a public records request. And if you've ever seen those pictures, he didn't swerve. That line is straight into the wall.
Yep.
It's straight into the wall. There was no spinning involved in that. But that's something that we learned because of a public records request.
Well, actually, there was spinning, but not behind the wheel.
Yeah. There's so those are the sorts of things that you can find out with public records requests and get that information so people can make informed decisions. So that's basically what we do. That's what we do at Red Mass Group. We have a thing every morning, 5 things you should know today. Some of them are funny, some of them are not. We find some funny videos, but they're just things that the news media doesn't always report on. What votes are coming up, if somebody did something, those sorts of things. So that's what we do. Those are the sorts of things that we do.
Could you share with the audience, especially with the topicality, the video that is on your website regarding the Chick-fil-A issue?
Yeah, I mean, Chick-fil-A, no matter where you stand on the gay marriage issue, you can stand that you're for gay marriage, that you're against gay marriage, that you're somewhere in the middle, that you think they should vote on it, but you'd vote one way, that the government just shouldn't be involved in marriage. No matter where you stand on that. The government doesn't have a right to tell you to open or not open a business based on your personal beliefs. That's for the marketplace to decide. And Mayor Menino said what he did. So what ended up happening is social conservatives got together and they made today Eat at Chick-fil-A Day. In Burlington, Massachusetts, where there's a Chick-fil-A, there were 500 or more people in line all the time. And you can go to the website and see the video. It's going to be buried by the time this airs, but you can go and you can see just people going around corners. It was absolutely unreal. So there's that video. We do some video too. We do some videography. There's the video of Elizabeth Warren didn't come up with the, you didn't do it on your own line. She stole it from a Berkeley professor. So there's a video of that. The China issue. She thinks that we should be more like China and spend up to 10% of our gross domestic product on infrastructure. What's that per capita? I'm sure that's a heck of a lot less per capita than we spend. Because their GDP per capita is a lot lower than ours. They also have dirt roads and, don't have the, 5-10 years ago, there was no highway system to speak of.
No infrastructure.
There is no infrastructure, so they need to build the infrastructure to catch up with us. So of course they're spending 10%.
Because they have to.
Because they have to.
Yeah.
We've done this over time. I took a look at the Congressional Budget Office, and there'll be something going up on the website either today or tomorrow. Do you know what the average GDP spend of the United States has been for the past 55 years?
No, I don't.
Somewhere between 2.3 to 3%. It's 2.4% now. We're not out of line with what we've done. It got to 3% during the 1960s when we were building the interstate highway system. We've done our major infrastructure projects in the United States. And quite frankly, to Elizabeth Warren and the Obama administrations, we did a stimulus package. We spent $700 billion. We spent almost none of it on infrastructure, but we gave a bunch to Solyndra and to GM and to non-infrastructure projects. If they really wanted to spend it on infrastructure, where did that $700 billion go? Because it sure as heck didn't go into as many infrastructure projects as it could have.
One of the exciting things about the kind of work you're doing, you're almost functioning as an ombudsman, so to speak, for the populace. But it's not just your words. You're able to back it up with video. You're able to back it up with lots and lots of good, hard information. And in essence, you're kind of a conscience and providing an ongoing report card of activities. And that's something that you don't get in traditional media. As you know, Worcester is basically a one-horse town when it comes to media.
Two-horse now.
Now. But basically, it's been one for a long time. And what's the old adage? Absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what you have.
Right, and I think what you see in Worcester is a perfect case of why competition is needed
Indeed.
in all aspects of life.
Indeed.
Go local Worcester.
Absolutely.
I have no idea what their political leanings are. I mean, I've got no clue. But they are writing stories that the Telegram, which is a fairly conservative newspaper as far as, a New York Times publication goes.
Other than the guest columnists that they have are not exactly in that mode.
Right, but you need all sides to an issue.
Sure.
But they'd stop stories. They'd stop stories. That's what happens. They've got friends and places,
Sure.
and they don't want to put a story in that makes their cocktail party go bad or something. I don't care who invites me to cocktail parties. I mean, if I did, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. But that's kind of what it is. But I do want to caution people. And I said it at this training, and I think you were at this training. People give the Boston Globe a hard time, but you got to remember, who broke the Sal DeMacy story? It's the Boston Globe. Who broke the probation story? It's the Boston Globe. Yeah. Who broke the Tim Cahill doing lottery ad story? It's the Boston Globe. Who helped me get one of the things we did with public data, and you talk about public data, is this whole, and you talked about it last week, in your show last week, with this whole CNBC ranking going from 6th to 20th. We were never 6th. I mean, come on. Give me a break.
Sounded good, though.
But, the governor cherry picks information to say that we're doing the best. And he goes and he does it from one place to another. And I started looking into the data, and every day for about 3 weeks, I had charts and graphs and economic data from the government showing that we're not where the governor says we are. It got to the point where the Boston Herald paid attention, or Boston Globe paid attention, Noah Berman. And he called the governor's office, and he called the administration and said, well, what about all this data? The administration gave him numbers that we could not independently verify anywhere else. They were making stuff up.
Made up.
They were cherry-picking information. And that story got written in the Globe, because the one thing you don't want to do to the newspaper is you don't want to lie to the newspaper, because they're going to say that you lied, even if they're your best friend, because they buy ink by the barrel. So, you don't want to do that.
That's their resource.
So, we've got that. I think the big story, and it could break any day now, is the probation scandal. And there's been a lot of state reps and state senators spending some time in the fair city of Worcester at the federal courthouse in front of a grand jury.
I wonder why that is.
Because they're going to be indicted.
Oh.
And I think Paul Ware, who wrote the Ware report from the probation scandal, he showed that they were getting indicted. So but we want to get back. I guess we want to talk about some of the stuff that we need to do to activate people. That's one of the things from watching your show a few times that you'd like to do. So what I think that people need to do to get activated is they need to learn how to get information. And you can go to redmassgroup.com and you can search how to get public records information on Red Mass Group. You got to package it in a way that you got to tell a story. And you got to cover the local things that people aren't covering. If this show is seen by people outside of Worcester in the greater Worcester County area at some point in time,
it's on the net.
It's on, right. So on the net. So if people in the greater Worcester area or at ACTIVATEworcester.com are looking at it, because I know Activate Worcester is a Worcester County
That's correct.
effort.
Yeah.
If you're in Paxton, or you're in Spencer, or you're in Holden,
or even the wilds of Shrewsbury,
take a video camera and go to your selectmen's meeting and ask them the tough questions. You've got Windows Movie Maker for free on your computer. Everybody's computer has it. Download that video, throw a few things on it, upload it to YouTube, put it on your website, put it on Facebook, so people know.
And you're in business at that point.
Do those sorts of things. The barrier to entry into this is nothing. It's your time.
It's getting off the couch.
It's getting off the couch
Thank you.
or sitting on the couch. And with me, I can sit on the couch. I get up, I'm in my PJs, and I write the 5 things you should know every morning. That's what people were saying. We're talking about the economic data. And the reason I got on the economic data is I did a post. If you remember, Scott Brown wanted to do this crowdfunding bill that you and I could invest in startup companies. As it stood before this bill was passed, you needed a net worth of $1 million to be considered a registered investor in order to invest in non-traditional investments. Now, to me, that is one of the reasons that, you know, the Occupy movement likes to talk about the 1% and the 99%. One of the reasons the 99% stay the 99% is that they're not given the opportunity to invest the same way that the 1% does, because the government wants to protect them, wants to stop them from taking undue risks. So you see a concentration of wealth because people at the bottom, or at the bottom 99%, can't take advantage of the same investment activities. That's all I wrote in a blog post. The Secretary of Economic Development of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Greg Bilecki, called me out on that on another website. I didn't see it. I get a call from a reporter as I'm pulling into the new Boylston Shell station, which I love, by the way. I actually have a gas station that's on my way to work now. Pulling in there, I'm on my way, and the newspaper guy calls me and says, "Did you see what the governor's economic development secretary said about you?" Like, what the heck's the governor's economic development secretary saying something about me? And I saw it, and then it's like, you know what? You're saying I lie and I make stuff up? Who do you work for? What have you been doing? And that's why I got on the tear that I got. And it's funny, because one of my friends said to me after, he goes, the moral of this story is don't get the guy who sits and writes stuff on the internet and his PJ's upset. Because, you know, he's going to find the facts. It's all about finding the facts. I'm an engineer by trade. That's what my degree is in. It's not what I do now. I sell. But it's facts. It's data. They're all out there. You got to go. You got to get them. And then you got to know how to package them and present them. And that's just something that I've been blessed with knowing how to do, is how to help and package information so that it gives people action items, whether it's call your senator, call your state representative, hold them accountable. But those are the things that I would want people to be activated on, is to hold the people that they elect accountable for the things that they say they're going to elect. Go to every single video, something you can crowdsource. Every single video of every single session of the House of Representatives is online, able to be downloaded if you buy something. It's actually free. It's Video Download Helper on Firefox. It's a free thing. So if you go and look for the add-on Video Download Helper, you can download any web video you see. And you can download it, and you can bring it to Windows Movie Maker. You can package it. I have something a little bit more sophisticated than that, but you can package it. Which brings me to another story. I mean, we were talking at the event that we were at, the event, one of our state representatives, Ryan Fatman, was talking about how disgusted he was at the beginning of the session, the legislative session, that they basically did a tribute to the 3 former indicted, now 3 former convicted speakers of the House.
Absolutely true. Yeah.
And then I said, wait a second. Why didn't I think of this before? I can get that video. So I went home. I went online. I found the video. I downloaded it, and you can see it on my website. You can see them, like, praising indicted speakers. They're great guys. They learned a lot. They were good for this. They're indicted speakers. I mean, come on. That's the kind of stuff that we need. This state...
Other politicians have been forced to resign for saying less.
Oh, I know. Yeah. This state, it's a target-rich environment. I mean, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, if you want to uproot corruption, and you want to uproot shenanigans, and you want to uproot just utter stupidity of your elected officials, this state is a gold mine. And I think, I want to leave people, too, with, we talk about activating, and Worcester, I think, is the center of the conservative movement in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
Sure.
It used to be the South Coast and Cape Cod, and I think it's moved over. Although you can go, which is pretty interesting, you can drive from southern Hampshire County, not Hampshire, Hamden County, southern Hamden County, all the way to the ocean in Cape Cod and Barnstable, and you'd never leave a Republican district. And that's how, and then it kind of shoots up, and it goes over, and we've got, a couple more that you need to keep the key, but you do. But what I want people to understand, and I know that Activate Worcester is the beginning of a conservative, is to take the Tea Party and move it into a new conservative movement in the center of the state. If you look at the election results from the past 2 elections, and you look at outside of Boston where people won. Scott Brown won about 90 of the state representative districts out of 160. Mm-hmm. Deval Patrick got less than 50% in about 90 of the state legislative districts. Mm-hmm. Now, I said I had an engineering degree, but it's pretty simple math. 90 divided by 160 is greater than 50%. All right, so we always sit here and say, oh, we can never get to a majority in Massachusetts. We can never do it. We can never do it. The numbers are there. We need good candidates. We need people that don't, their first time running for office, decide, I want to be a congressman. Mm-hmm. We need people to do stuff like your last guest from last week did, and run for school committee, mm-hmm. and run for selectmen.
State rep.
And then, from there, run for state rep. Mm-hmm. And in 2014, I think we're going to pick 4 or 5 seats up in the legislature this year, mm-hmm. which is unprecedented for a long time in the Commonwealth to have 2 back-to-back years where we pick up seats. 2014 is the year that we can come close to not just giving a Governor Baker or a Governor Winslow or a Governor whoever mm-hmm. Else may run a veto that can be upheld. We have the opportunity, and your listeners need to know it, and I think the Democrats in the city of Worcester know it, and the Democrats in Worcester County know it, and the liberals and the progressives. Mm-hmm. The conservative movement can take over the House of Representatives in 2014, and we just need people like Activate Worcester to get involved and to help these people win. And 2014 is the year.
Well, it seems to me that what you're laying out is a very, very plausible scenario. But to help make that happen, without a doubt, if you're out watching this show, if you do nothing other than get onto redmass.com,
redmassgroup.com,
group.com, there's a whole world of information that you'll be able to access on an ongoing basis. I know that every morning I open that up and I open Go Local, and that gives me a great deal of information about what's going on locally that's relevant to me and relevant to you. So I would strongly encourage you to do this, because you'll be a heck of a lot more informed, and you'll have a platform that you can use to make some things happen, which is what this is all about. And I thank you so much for joining us, Rob. You've been great. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on.
Join